On here. Okay, welcome everybody. I'd like to call to order the Wednesday, February 25th, 2026 regular meeting of the Royal Oak Downtown Development Authority. At this time, we'll have public comment. Is anybody here to address the board? Yes, please come forward.
I'd like to pass these out. Thank you. My name's Ann Rivard. I live in the neighborhood between Woodward and Washington and just south of 4th, where the park is behind the parking structure. I received, and so did other neighbors, an email from Mr. Kremer last night regarding the play structure. And so this was my response to him. Others have responded to him by email. But I just wanted to come and make sure that you all were apprised of generally how the neighborhood feels. Mr. Kremer, as you know, Ms. Judy Davids, City of Royal Oak Community Engagement Specialist, and City Commissioner Rebecca Cheatham met with neighbors on February 10th regarding our park on Southwest Street. Since you were not present, you missed a valuable dialogue in which they actively listened to our comments, welcomed ideas from everyone present, and gathered emails from attendees with the intention of fostering further engagement on the choice of the play structure for our park on Southwest Street. I have been in regular communication with them since then about other affordable options, since only one was available at the meeting, the play value of which is not comparable to what we previously had. We are researching other cost-effective designs and have the expectation that they will be considered. The action you have taken to place an order for a play structure before receiving neighborhood input on the design is premature and is in direct conflict with the outcome of that meeting. Further, the expenditure for the park in 2003, the original park, was $34,000. The word is attached is there to that email to him. I attached an invoice. While we appreciate the $25,000, it has the same purchasing power as approximately $14,000 in 2003 dollars. Quite a discrepancy. As you are aware, this area between 11 Mile Road and the freeway, Washington to Woodward, has far fewer recreational amenities than any other part of Royal Oak, as far as I know. We need to talk about other, more suitable designs, as well as increasing the budget to invest in this neighborhood. I believe that this can be done in an efficient manner and for the good of all, especially our children. Please put a pause on your order so that we can complete this process in the way that Ms. Davids and Commissioner Cheatham began it, with genuine community engagement. I don't know how long I can stay since I have my granddaughter with me, who also has very clear opinions about the park. And there was a very good showing at this meeting, and we were all left with a distinct impression that action was not going to be taken without our further input. No one in the neighborhood wants to drag their feet, make it take longer. We are a very cohesive, hardworking neighborhood. And, but to find out that it had been ordered without any further input from the neighborhood has people feeling, and rightly so, that that meeting really was of no consequence, at least to Mr. Kremer. So I'd like you to know about this. I'd like there to be further communication. My phone number is on here. And I'd like to get this done in a way that is appropriate for the neighborhood and on time, and we can see what we can do about the budget. The city was able to, the DDA and the city was able to come up with far more 23 years ago. So thank you for the chance to express all of this.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Good afternoon. I'd like to go on record. I've spoken with some of you about the meters in the Civic Center parking lot. I'm requesting that additional ones be installed as soon as possible to make it better for handicapped, and this is what I put on the city's website. In the current configuration, people using handicapped spaces are required to either walk into traffic or travel a significantly less direct route in order to reach a pay station and then return to the ramp. While the ADA does not specify an exact distance to a pay station, the setup we currently have is inconsistent with the intent of accessible route requirements and established accessibility best practices, which are meant to provide safe, independent access. Further, relying on a smartphone app, as was suggested, not only eliminates the less expensive options of using coins or a credit card, but it is not a substitute for accessible physical design. Many seniors and people with disabilities cannot use apps. Royal Oak promotes itself as age-friendly and welcoming. This configuration does not reflect those stated goals. If the city is serious about accessibility and its age-friendly commitments, pay stations should be placed so they can be reached safely and directly from handicapped spaces and ramps without entering traffic or relying on a phone app as a workaround. So if anything's going to come up on an agenda or a payment or whatever, the addition of these, like probably 3 meters, is probably around $20,000 total. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Harrison.
Thank you. Bill Harrison, Woodward Side Subdivision, resident since 1941 and a downtown building owner. I may sound like a broken record, but I think it's important that you receive what I call a parking revenue report, like we received when I was on the DDA. It shows the revenues, the number of spaces, and the dollars per space per year. This information gives you a real feel for the utilization of the parking structures and where emphasis needs to be placed. Given that I'm 84 years old and not familiar with the parking meter system yet, I parked in the 11-mile structure, and I noticed that parked on the 4th level. It was quite well occupied, and I noticed that the elevator is out of service. These elevators seem to be problematic. I noticed in the report by the downtown manager that Julia has been holding meetings regarding business retention and recruitment. She's also been visiting the businesses, and it would be very interesting to have her on the agenda to tell us what she's finding as she talks to the business owners downtown, what their reactions are. We never seem to have any of them come to public speaking and talk. I know my tenants, I've encouraged them, and they keep saying, well, I'm not political. Well, this isn't political. This is necessary for the viability of the downtown. The report of properties for sale and rent is very interesting. I've made a copy of it. It's amazing how many places are for rent. I had to point out to Laura that a lot of them are second and third floor spaces, not necessarily ground floor. And as I finish up, I would like to second what this lady said about the parking equipment. I remember that their organization on West Street, called West of West, were very instrumental in not building a high-rise condo development on the property, and it's now a parking structure which is viable. It's needed downtown, so we want to thank them for objecting to the high-rise condos, and we now have a viable parking deck system there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harrison. Yes.
My name is Frank Hobrecht, and I own a building at 408 South Washington. Used to be a Kresge's building about 100 years ago. Now it's home to Lily's, Cafe Muse, Paper Trail, Blue Jeans Blues, and some office people. This is the old system that is still in front of our building, and it's probably still rampant downtown. In fact, it might be removed in some parts, but somebody put this sign in front of on one of the ATMs. I call that's the money machine for the old Century system. It's been abandoned for 4 months. I was out there last week just trying to help people negotiate the new system because people are going to the old system. They're trying to make the old system work. I want this parking spot. I want this parking spot paid for. How do I do it? You can't do it. They don't get it. I don't know what we're waiting for. Okay, this is 4 months. This is 4 months of my people trying to pay rent. I'm paying the mortgage. I'm paying property taxes. I'm paying the utilities. I'm paying the building insurance. Everything needs to be paid for every single day. Everyone knows that we've got a problem with vacancies. We're losing a business a month now. Every month, someone's leaving. Part of the problem is the parking. We just can't seem to get a good, clean parking system. We need to get rid of the old system. And then people will maybe figure out that we got a new system. But we can't have two systems side by side. And you're saying, well, they're covered up. No, they're not covered up. Somebody put this sign on the ATM, the money portion of the Century system. And the little micro robots are still all there. So I don't know what we're waiting for. But ladies and gentlemen, every day counts. We need to keep these businesses alive. As I walked over here from my bakery at Lincoln in Washington up to 4th Street, I didn't encounter one person. Not one person was on the sidewalk. Nobody. There's nobody here. We've got to do a better job about this parking. Please, next month I'll be back. Please have these things removed. Pull these things off, cut them off, throw them away, and let's start with the new system. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to address the board tonight? Seeing none, I will close public comment. Bring the meeting back to the table here. Next item is the approval of minutes. Get the dates here. This would be for January 21, 2026. Motion by Director Dunstan to approve the minutes. Supported by Director Walker. Does anybody have any questions regarding the minutes or changes? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes. Okay, next item is expense items. You have the items before you. If there's any questions, now would be the time to check with staff. Anything from the board? Okay. Seeing none, we will just go ahead and move forward. Next item is business. First item on that is Trailhead Reimbursement Agreement. Mr. Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you'll see this memo, it's very much like the next one that we're seeing, with the difference being Trailhead is 7 years into the implementation, whereas Hazelton is in year 1. So for those who are new, just to give a little bit of background, we entered into a reimbursement agreement for up to $3 million, representing no more than 80% of the annual amount of tax increment revenues generated and captured. That's where these two projects get very different. So speaking to Trailhead specifically, that after working very closely with the city treasurer, that we identified the current payables are $380,104.08 for the year completed. And additionally, we found an overpayment and a balance owed of $87,971. And together, those exceed the $370,000 we had budgeted for this year. It comes in at $468,000. Having said that, having corrected some of the past underpayments, that for years 8, 9, and 10, hopefully that will be closer to that 370 number we budgeted, 370 to 380. So the action before you today is to approve to go ahead with the reimbursement according to the terms of the agreement for the $380,104.08. And secondly, the PAC payments for unreimbursed items in prior fiscal years of $87,971.
Okay. Questions for Mr. Kramer? Mr. DuBois.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer. Just looking for clarification on, do we understand how we miscalculated and underpaid, and what steps are being taken to make sure it doesn't happen again so we can stay on budget going forward?
Yes. Now, with the understanding hitting the ground September 15th last year, a lot of this is secondhand and by way of everyone that I've talked with. But there's a couple of factors to keep in mind. One is, as a result of the COVID crisis, that there was a period where no payments were made, or a reduced level of payments was made. Additionally, there's something called a stipulated agreement that was received during the tax year of 2019, and another one received during the tax year of 2020, though that one was pushed off to 2021. All of this is in the reimbursement summary table in the footnotes. So basically there was some inconsistency with the amounts paid each year. Now, to draw attention of the board to the language of the stipulated agreement, I'm not a tax expert. I'm not going to pretend to be one, but I can tell you that owners have the ability to appeal what their properties are assessed, and that there's actually a tax tribune that can, through a stipulated agreement, lower that assessment level, which will have an impact on both what they pay, but for us, what we're able to reimburse. So after, I have to give the city treasurer a good deal of credit, after doing some very extensive review of all the available records and the stipulated agreement, it was because of her diligence that she was able to find this underpayment. And, really for the board, what's at stake here is, things change, we understand that, but, how are we going to honor, the original agreement we made? And I think that's a really important concept, and hopefully that's what we choose to do today. I hope I answered your question.
No, I appreciate that, and I certainly appreciate the commitment to filling our legal obligations. Just want to make sure that we've got clear vision going forward, so.
Yes,
this isn't
yes, we all have our eyes on it. And further to that, Mr. Chairman, I would recommend to the board that whenever these reimbursement agreements come up for payment, to make sure that the 10-year reimbursement table is included with them, so that year over year we can keep an eye on how it's performing, and also be proactive to see if there's any variances or any things that need explanations, such as the stipulated agreement. So you'll note for both of these that the table was included in the packet as backup, as a public document.
Okay. Just for clarity, so as the tax base increases from year to year, the percentage, which I think under both these agreements is a 80% reimbursement of the tax paid, would then rise also. So we're keeping pace with the rise in the tax base.
I want to say yes with a condition. Again, I'm not a tax expert, but I think what we really have to keep an eye on is how the assessed value changes, and then the reimbursement reflects that. So, and when I'm looking at the reimbursement summary table for Trailhead as an example, our 80% stake in year one was $313,000. The highest is $380,000 in the current year. So, you know, what I take from that is between year one and year seven, the current year, that, you know, there's been a variance basically in what they paid and what they're owed back to us. So, and again, not a tax expert, but I would note that taxing entities and the rates they set will vary from year to year. So that's probably reflected in some of the numbers we're looking at. And the TIF assessment doesn't, our capture does not include every taxing entity either. So we could easily talk 6 more hours about the ins and outs of tax law, but for our purposes, you know, I think our reimbursement may vary. You know, it looks like as much as $70,000, you know, between year one and year seven. But, you know, we just have to keep on top of it, both the summer and the winter tax bills, and make sure that we're honoring our agreement. And I do want to remind the board, our agreement is 10 years or up to $3 million.
That was my next question to you, which if you can't answer, I'm fine with it, but are we, do you feel like we're on pace to reach the maximum amount or the maximum amount of time?
Yes, I think, so Mr. Chairman, referring to the reimbursement summary table again, that given the increase in the reimbursement that we've provided every year, it was 343 in year 5, 369 in year 6, and 380 in year 7. I think it's reasonable to expect with the next payment, not that one, but the one after it, so year 9 is when we'll fulfill the complete $3 million. And of course, that's before year 10. So, so my prediction, the current trajectory things are going, by year 9, we will have fulfilled this commitment.
Thank you very much.
And I would note for the record that the current reimbursement is $2.44 million to date.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anything else for Mr. Kramer here regarding this? Okay, do we have a proposed resolution on here?
There are 2.
There are 2.
Where are they?
I must pull up the wrong one here. Triad final.
Oh, I'm in the room, yeah.
Oh, yeah, the agenda item. Okay, we have 2 proposed resolutions here. What's the wish of the board?
Yeah,
Director Dubuck.
I'll move for both resolutions as presented.
Motion by Director Dubuck.
I'll second both.
I have Mr. Van Ness just seconding both resolutions. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, so our next one would be the Hazelton.
Yes, so take the conversation we just had. Here's the difference. that they're in year one of the payback period right now. We had projected for the fiscal year budget that we're currently in up to a $300,000 payment in year one and $3 million over 10 years, structured similarly to Trailhead. In light of the taxes that have been paid, however, and our limitation to only provide 80% of the tax increment revenues generated, by doing the calculation and showing the sheet, just like we did with Trailhead, we were able to come to the calculation that the maximum reimbursement that we can provide is $116,655.66.
Okay. Questions for Mr. Kramer? Yes.
Question, and this is related to both of them. You have some footnotes at the bottom of your summary table that talk about summer taxes owed as of 7/1, winter taxes owed as 12/1, last day to pay 12/28. I assume that's for summer. Does that mean they haven't paid last year's taxes? Or I guess I'm trying to understand that footnote, and it applies to both of them.
Thank you. I think, Mr. Chairman, that's probably a question better fielded by the city treasurer. But what I can attest to, and I have the detail sheet for taxes paid for this property, that I believe they're currently up to date, and that the amounts reflected here and the reimbursement amount is something that both the city treasurer and myself have reviewed and concurred would be appropriate for what has been paid. I do not, in fact, we're not able to reimburse them if they have not met their obligations. So there's your answer.
That's what I was kind of getting at. I just wanted to make sure they were up to date on their tax payments, because I would assume our agreement provides that we can't reimburse them if they're not paying their property taxes.
Yes, and Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the comment. It reminds me that in early January, I made that point to the management team, and they were diligent to make sure that the payments were made.
Mr. Kramer, is this a similar 80-20 agreement based on 10 years?
Yes.
So would we assume that potentially year two, that this amount would double?
I can't confirm or deny that. That I think it's all going to come down to what their assessed value is and the TIF paid, the total TIF capture. So, and you know, as we saw with Trailhead, that any kind of stipulated agreement could also, you know, have an impact if they choose to go that route. So, but making reasonable expectations that I do not believe that they will hit that $300,000, nor will they hit the $3 million in 10 years on the trajectory they're currently.
That
on.
was my thought process here is that we're paying this on a yearly basis,
Correct.
and there's no catch up.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Okay, this also has two resolutions attached to it.
Mr. Chair, I just have a quick question.
Sure.
Isaac, again, I want to thank you for being here today. As
Sure.
I was reviewing this document, getting up to speed on the original agreement and what must be met in order for certain things to happen, is it safe to assume that the Hazleton is still a work in progress in terms of fully meeting the original agreement? And then looking at the last paragraph when we're talking about what went before the Business Marketing Committee, and the committee indicated once all public improvements have been completed, the waiver of liens have been submitted, and the total cost exceed $3 million, the request can be submitted to the board for review and full consideration. Is it safe to assume that, again, understand that Hazelton is still working and haven't met the full agreement of the original agreement, or is it, I don't know, I'm just trying to wrap my mind around where things currently sit with this progress, with this project, I'm sorry.
Thank you for that. So, Mr. Chairman, I can say that our original reimbursement agreement and also the first, second, and third amendments have very specific criteria that need to be met before we're able to issue the reimbursement. And I can verify that those criteria have been met. It involves things such as getting a permanent CO, having an affidavit that the work's been completed, showing proof of payment for the public improvements that were made. And you'll note in the memo, it was close to $6.6 million of public improvements. So they've fully done their diligence, and that has been verified. So not a work in progress. It is now delivered, and our time to pay up has come.
Thank you for clarifying that for me.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. DeBuck.
Just thank you for your due diligence on this, Mr. Kremer. I'll move for approval of the resolutions presented.
Thank you.
Motion by Director DeBuck.
Support.
Supported by Director Walker. Further discussion? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, maintenance and landscaping contract.
All right. So with that, this actually goes back to almost the first month I was here. As members of the Infrastructure Committee can attest that we reached a point where we needed to put out to bid for our maintenance and landscape services. Royal Oak has had a long-standing and I'd say very successful relationship with Worry Free for many, many years. And, but still we wanted to put it in the market and, see what kind of responses we get. Of the bids that came in, there were some that just didn't compare, like it was very clear they couldn't live up to it. There were some that were much more costly on an hourly basis and for the total amount. Ultimately, we came to the determination that Worry bid continues to be the lowest bid because their hourly is the lowest. And as you'll see in our analysis and the recommendation, that's where we have some leverage with the allocation of hours throughout the year to get it to the price point that we really want. So our current line item is $509,400, and we're projecting a $600,000 expenditure. What does that extra amount buy you? Hourly rate has gone up slightly. We're also doing an additional planting in the late fall, and we're trying to rebalance and allocate some hours, including when our peak time is on Friday and Saturdays, and also after major winter storms. And to that last point, I can tell you that we've already had several service visits throughout the winter from Worry Free, which I think have been really successful. One of the most recent ones involved getting all the gray snow out of the district before one of the next storms came, and it just improves the overall look and feel of the downtown. So far we're on track, and the recommendation is to renew the contract for another 3-year period.
Okay. Questions? Yes.
I'm just curious, I know we talked about adding the winter hours. I mean, I don't see a bid form here or a contract, of course, yet, but I wondered, are those additional hours, or are we pulling those hours away from something else? And when we do use those winter hours, who triggers that?
Good. So, Mr. Chairman, I can tell you that we do have the bid form with the allocation that was proposed. And if we would have gone with the full amount, it would probably have come in closer to the $630,000 cost. So the allocation of hours, that's really been an ongoing discussion. And primarily it's been between me and the project lead for Worry Free, Jeff. And there's been times I've said, we need you to flood the zone and get more hours in to make sure, like on Friday nights, like it's looking really good. It's great that Tuesday afternoon it looks nice, but Friday nights is our Super Bowl in downtown Royal Oak. And likewise, throughout the winter, as we brought those new hours on, it was pretty quick from when I called Jeff to having a crew there, usually within a day or two. But the bottom line is we want to be highly responsive to conditions in the district, but also feedback that we're getting from stakeholders, you know, including the businesses and residents and others who speak up, like to have the resources like worry-free on call and to be able to respond almost in real time, like as needs come up in the district. That's a great, great ability to have.
Isaac, how is that engagement with the local businesses coming into you? Is it just they know to call you? There's feedback from you know, other members of the city to say, hey, this looks bad, we need to increase it. How is that coming to you?
Thank you. So, Mr. Chairman, I can tell you the communication I have with businesses is continuous and ongoing. It's largely a function of being out and about in the district and talking with everyone. Like, that's one of the most important parts of the job. But to give credit where credit is due, probably the person who's reached out to me most is Director Dunstan. And I think he'd back up that we're very responsive when we get those comments. And likewise, you know, as Julia, Deputy Director, is going about the district and interacting with folks, we're constantly trying to listen, understand the needs. And but probably most significantly, what I'd share with you is that my patience and tolerance for any kind of disorder, dirt, gray snow, whatever you call it, it's very low. So that's why Jeff is on speed dial, and he's accustomed now to getting calls from me and responding almost within, you know, same day or 24 hours. So, but yes, we try to be highly responsive, and we appreciate that feedback wherever we get it.
Yes.
Isaac, do we have the opportunity to talk with or work with Worry-Free on what the plantings are? You know, I've only been downtown with the business for about 3.5 years now, but we noticed that the same plants get, you know, planted in the fall. This past fall, they died immediately.
Okay.
And then they get ripped out just before winter. You know, I've just had conversations with people around the community who are interested in perennials or native plants that maybe require less, doing the same thing over and over.
So, Mr. Chair, the response onto the selection of plants, we do have flexibility, especially as we get later in the season. Full disclosure that the mums that were put out for this fall planting, that was a last-minute decision that was made, and I will acknowledge that the watering of them was not adequate. So, but we can definitely improve the watering, and we can also have those more in-depth conversations with people who are inclined to share their perspective about what they'd like to see and get it right. And noted on the more drought-tolerant and even native plants that at our last meeting, we approved the Sustainability Climate Action Plan, and a big part of that is embracing those plants that will perform and do well in this environment. So all of that is possible.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Mr. Yasmick.
Is this proposed resolution based on a recommendation from the Infrastructure Committee?
It is. In terms of renewing the contract, I did have a couple questions that I wanted to ask Mr. Kremer on in terms of some of the numbers, but yes, it is it was reviewed at the Infrastructure Committee. And pretty much, I think you asked me at that point was, you know, one recommendation to move forward. Mr. DuBois, or go ahead. Well, I'll get you both.
Thank you. No, just for the, I think, sake of folks who are not on infrastructure committee.
Right.
One, going out to bid was in no way a reflection on our satisfaction with worry-free, but it was time to either talk about going back out or an extension. Best practices, after so much time, go back out to market, see what's out there, make sure we're getting a fair price, give other vendors an opportunity to wow us with their proposal. This recommendation that came back from staff, I think we were all very much aligned with, because we have been very satisfied. We think it's a very fair price. They know us, they're responsive to our needs, and really none of the other proposals I think were enough to woo us away from worry-free. But we did go into this with clear eyes and a willingness to consider any qualified bidder. Going out to market was just best practice, as we do from time to time. And I'm supportive of the recommendation, but interested in questions.
Thank you. So I see in part of the resolution you talk about limiting the year-over-year price increase. I assume that's to keep it below the recommended 600,000, short of the bid response of 630. So I assume that language was crafted with that intent in mind, knowing that that's year one for managing that cap. Would you be willing to accept a resolution that included language not to exceed 600,000, so we build that into the approval of the resolution to help you maintain that as the cap moving forward with year one?
Yes.
Okay, yes, you know what, I had essentially the same question. I was trying to understand what what number was put on the actual contract with worry-free, and and I have no problem with the cushioning, that's fine, and a not to exceed. I don't have any problem with that whatsoever. I was curious as to the bid versus the actual contract.
Yeah, so Mr. Chair, to fully respond to that, I think to the second resolution, adding the language not to exceed $600,000 in year one would be a friendly amendment, which would, I think, fulfill the spirit of what was requested.
All right, then I'll make that motion. So I move both, and on the second, I'd like to add not to exceed $600,000.
Support.
Okay, so I have a motion by Director Dunstan and supported by Mr. Dubuck. Does that, let me just ask, does that satisfy what you were looking for, Mr. Grotowski?
And it might be more of a question for Mr. Kremer so that's year one. I would assume we expect increases 2 and 3, so that caps year one. The way the motion's made, it caps all 3 years, so we might want to look to Mr. Kremer if I'm, again, reading that correctly. I don't know if the bid did different amounts for 3 years, or was that 630 for the entire 3-year period? I guess that would be one place to start the conversation to make sure, right?
Well, I can pull back that motion.
Mr. Chairman, point of information.
Yes.
Did I use that properly? We'll work on that. I'm working on my Robert's rules, everyone. So thank you, though. That on page 1, the 3 years are laid out. Year 1 being 630,000, year 2 647,000, year 3 being 676,000. Though further, I want to reiterate that the amendment to the second resolution was to not exceed $600,000 in year 1. So we're not touching on year 2 or 3, but I think it's a reasonable expectation that the board would come back and have to approve year 2 and 3. But right now we're only specifying 600 for year 1.
Can I rescind the motion and remake it, if it's okay with Kyle?
He could amend his original, I think. Yeah, then you vote on the amendment. So it would be in the form of amending your original motion.
Okay, so we'll vote on what I've already moved, is what you're saying?
No, you can amend,
Oh, before we vote on it, okay.
and we would vote on the amended motion. That if you're moving to amend your original motion at this point.
There's
Okay.
a motion and a second on the table, so that belongs to the body, so we can't just
Right, I hear you.
Right.
unilaterally undo it.
Gotcha.
So you're making a motion to amend or substitute motion even.
Yeah, so I'd like to, like it was discussed here, amend with the additional monies for years 2 and 3, which would be 647 and 681, right?
647 and
676.
Is that not to exceed? Is that
Not
what
to
you mean?
exceed, yeah.
I'll support.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
My understanding was that we were capping year 1 at 600, not 630,
Correct.
right? And then, so wouldn't we want to make year 2 and 3 lower than what the proposed numbers are in response to?
Okay, let me go backwards, if I can.
Well, is that correct in our thinking?
Well, I don't know what those numbers would be, but if we're knocking, say, 30,000 off year 1, that would be 600, say, 615 and 630?
Yeah, so it would, year 1 would be
Is that-
600, year 2 would be 617, year 3 would be 646.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Kramer.
Having done some work after our last meeting and going through the Roberts rules, I believe that you have to act on the motion that's before you. And then if that amendment wants to be made, you can take that action.
My understanding is that if there's an amendment to the motion, that we have to act on the amendment first.
Act on the amendment first and then the motion,
Yeah.
correct? Sorry, I might have misput that.
Yes,
But we can discuss the
Yes.
amended motion.
Yeah, gotcha.
yes. Mr. Dubak.
Yeah, just for clarity on this, putting a 600,000 not to exceed would just mean that if, because of needs that we had above and beyond the contract, put us on a trajectory of going above and beyond that,
Right.
then another recommendation would come forward from staff to amend that cap.
Correct. We come back.
Should need. So like this is,
We could leave it as is and just review it each year.
so this
Yes.
is basically the guideline for staff is like not to exceed 600. If there's a reason we need to go above 600, they would have to bring that to us to spend money above and beyond that. And we would have a view to that well before that became necessary. We were trending ahead. Would that be right, Mr. Kremer?
I would agree.
I would agree also, and I think we've done that in the past. There's been areas throughout the city that were not under worry-free's responsibility, but we made agreements with them for an additional amount of money to be responsible for that. Say when we built the stuff at 696 and Woodward, the islands in the middle, that wasn't part of the deal, but it became part of the deal. So I don't have any problem moving forward because I think we can negotiate additional work on a yearly basis if need be. So I'm comfortable with it. I guess let's just go back to, I'm trying to figure out where we want to get back to or where we want to get to in terms of the numbers here. Can we just go back to his amendment, which is a cap on year 1
$600,000.
and leave it at that? Yes.
So the second motion was 600, 647, 676.
Basically, I subtracted 30 from each of those other
Right.
two.
If that's not the desired direction, we'd vote no on that, and then you get back to deciding the original motion was just a cap of 600,000.
Okay.
I just have
Mr.
a
Van
question for Mr. Kremer. Worry-free, so they won't, when it gets time to enter into a contract, they won't require some guaranteed expenditure or something like that for years 2 and 3, so we can deal with that later?
Yeah, additional expenditure
Yeah,
beyond the
my-
contract?
Right, my concern was just that we would enter in a contract where we don't exceed 600,000 for the first year, but then Worry-free says, well, what do we put in here for the years 2 and 3? And if we can deal with that later, great,
Well,
but.
we're paying them more in year 2 and year 3. So I don't know if we really need to go beyond that. If we need to, I think we can deal with it in year 2 and year 3.
Mr. Chairman, I can share, based on my review of the past records, that the bid form became the contract. I think it's very clear in this instance that we are not going to repeat that process. So we probably will need to enter into a written contract for year one only for the not to exceed the 600,000. And my understanding, based on my conversations with the contractor, is they would be amenable to that.
Mr. Dubon.
Yeah, and the resolutions before us actually don't make mention of any specific numbers. They actually, based on this bid, direct staff to enter into a contract and doesn't even dictate the terms other than it being based on this bid. So I think with the direction that we've given, I would recommend we vote down this second motion and go back to the original motion. The amended, vote down the amendment to the motion, go back to the original motion is my recommendation.
Okay. Everybody clear here, or do they need some more clarity before I call for the vote on the amendment?
Which we're voting no.
Sounds like that's the way to go.
Yeah. Is there a motion and a second?
There is. There is.
I'm so excited to vote no.
I can't wait to say no.
Okay, so we do, we have an amendment on the table before us that has been made and seconded. If there's no further discussion on this, I'm going to call for a vote simply on the amendment to the resolution.
Okay.
Okay? And I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye. No.
There's always one.
All those in favor, I thought the motion was to say no.
No.
So I'm in favor of saying no.
We're voting on the amendment the way that he stated it, okay?
Strike that. Reverse it.
Mr. Chairman, according to Robert's Rules of Order, while voting is occurring, that a member can change their motion at any time, their vote at any time.
Perfect, okay. So, let's try that one more time. I'm gonna call for the vote on the amendment. All those in favor, say aye. All those opposed, say no.
No.
No. Okay, so the amendment does not pass. We are back to the original resolution, which is written before us, correct?
With the added.
With the added
Right,
cap for year one.
right. Don't worry, this isn't another motion. I just want to let, Roy Free's been down here a long time, and they've done a great job. And I'm glad we're continuing with them because they are really on top of it. And I will, from personal observation out of my second floor window on Main Street, I have seen Mr. Kramer picking up garbage as he walks down the street. The only thing he's missing is a reflective vest. But otherwise, you'd think he was working for Worry Free, but I appreciate that. And then Director Brown, just look to your left, and we would welcome some advice on plantings. I know I would, so.
Well, I'll pass that on to my wife. She'll be so excited.
Okay.
She's got lots of seedlings started.
Awesome.
Okay, so back to the original resolution.
As amended.
As amended. If there's no further discussion, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes. Just real quick, while we're on the subject, Mr. Kramer, I don't know the timing of the plantings or the timing of when they have to order the material for that. But at some point, it might be worth us asking them to come to one or both of the committee meetings. And we'll get Director Brown involved in it for sure, one way or another, to be there to have that discussion that I think we should have.
Yeah, so Mr. Chairman, to that point, I can tell you that we do have that pressure for the spring planting. In fact, I think the plants have been growing for several weeks now. But if it would please the board, I would be happy to actually make a direct connection with Worry Free at the end of this meeting so that we can immediately get that feedback to them.
That would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, and if I could just comment, native and sustainable planning is a long-term plan, so it might not be something that they can respond to immediately, but it could really, over time, save us a lot of funds
Yeah.
going forward.
I agree, and they need to know what we're thinking. Thank you. Okay, moving forward, social media contract, Mr. Kramer.
Yes. So before getting into this, I did receive a communication that some directors have questions on this item. So certainly happy to entertain those. From my perspective, the only time urgency here is since November, we've been getting feedback about our social media channels effectively being silent. So, the moment that we get some capacity and can get those back to life. I know there's a very strong interest on the part of businesses to see us getting back to the level we were at before. But having said that, again, open to the feedback today, that to remind you, we had 12 responses, 1 from Royal Oak, 2 from Detroit, 1 from Ann Arbor, 1 from Rochester. We went through each of those and looking at them that, the one from Royal Oak stood out as someone who understood the local conditions. Amy Gillespie is one of the highest certified photographers in the U.S. There's only about 1,000 of them that have the same certification. She's actually shot several of our events already, including Small Business Saturday and the menorah lighting. And through her publication with City Lifestyle, has also been a very good partner of ours. Having said that, she is looking to go a new direction, as are we, with adding capacity to her team, including a social media manager. And there's a nice overlap because we're also seeking to expand our capacity in that area. And from my experience managing similar contracts in other towns, I can tell you the hardest thing to do is get someone with local knowledge who really has an eye for what the important things are that are happening in a downtown. What are the hot businesses or the ones on their way up? What are the events throughout the course of the year that are worthy of recognition? And telling stories that really connect. So I personally sat down and spoken with Ms. Gillespie no fewer than 4 or 5 times since getting here, and I've been very impressed by the depth of her connection to Royal Oak, both as a business owner here, but also as a multi-year resident of Royal Oak also. One last note I'd make under fiscal impact, I want to remind the board that upwards were being paid of $120,000 a year for a prior marketing contractor. And based on my review of the documentation, I know that there wasn't really, how would we say, the highest degree of satisfaction with the results that were given for that expenditure. So I do want to point out the fact that we're looking at 75% of that cost, in addition to having a local person who's very motivated to try to help us raise our game. And if we can do this well, I think it will create immediate benefit for all the businesses.
Okay. I know we have some discussion, or we have some people that want to get involved in this and have some questions, so let's get into it. Who wants to go first? Anybody? I think the issue that we have, Mr. Kramer, that I have heard, and this has nothing to do with the numbers or the contractor or anything else, but I think, and I don't know procedurally how we can do this, but I know there's a great desire for a number of board members to read this contract before it's fully executed and approved. And I think that's based on some of the history that you spoke of just a few minutes ago.
Mr. Chairman, if
yes.
I could. So for purposes of clarification, we have a bid response that we received. We may differ in treating that or considering that a contract. You know, I think the possibility of having a contract exists in which we could define term, scope, amount, et cetera. But right now, we just have a bid form. So I just wanted to provide that as a point of clarification.
So was your intent to use the bid form as a contract?
I could see us doing that, Mr. Chairman, but I could also see us drafting a contract with a specified term and amount and scope that would be above and beyond what is detailed in the RFP and the bid form.
Okay. Does anybody else want to weigh in on this?
I have a comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
So if an actual contract were developed, and it sounds like that might be the appropriate way to go, would the city attorney be drafting that contract?
I would assume so, though I defer
Okay.
to interim city manager to make sure we have the ability to make that ask. I know city attorney's very busy
Well, I don't
right
know
now.
who drafts the contracts. I'm just trying to determine who would do that and what their professional
Sure.
ability is. I mean, if we have an attorney, a staff person who's drafting it, I don't understand why we need we need to wag the dog as the board to review that
Mr.
contract.
Chair, I think our two options would be making the request to the city attorney. The second would be utilization of our outside counsel. I think either which would be excellent. So, and this doesn't need to be a complicated document. I could foresee it being a page, no more.
Thank you.
Mr. Yasmick?
I believe that we have similar contracts that the city has utilized in the past, and so I think they have a nice starting point for the contract. But I do believe it's appropriate for that contract to come back before us so we can see and make sure that we're comfortable with the terms, such as duration. The suggestion here is a 3-year agreement. Based on our prior experience with some firms, PR firms, social media, it hasn't worked out exactly the way we had hoped. And to be tied into a company, and maybe this is a great company and we might be with them for 10 years, but we can't. We have to be able to protect ourselves. And fortunately in the past we have had provisions that allowed us to separate seamlessly after a period of time. Personally, I think that's something, because of our past experiences, we should make sure is in the contract. And so that's that. And in addition, I'm sure this is an excellent firm, but there were 5 firms here that submitted bids. And in past practice on this board, we've had an opportunity, like we did with the last PR firm and social media firms, we've had an opportunity to vet them ourselves, to meet them, understand what kind of vision, direction they have for our city, and that's very important. And we then would give them direction, and it's good to have somebody knowledgeable about Royal Oak, but they need to understand what we feel is important as representatives of the downtown. It may supplement what they perceive as important issues. So, my suggestion would be to send it back to, while we're preparing this contract, send it back to committee so that we can interact with these companies that have advanced proposals, and there are a number of advantages doing that, because you hear feedback about what other people think about the city, what their visions are, and you learn. I think it's an important process. I feel like we've kind of circumvented that to some extent, and I would send it back to committee.
Mr. DeBuck?
Yeah, I think it's been done both ways over the years, both by the city, by the DDA. If you want to take the three top vendors that the staff considers most qualified and interview them in the committee, that is a way to go about it. There's no reason to rush the process. I'm comfortable with staff's rationale and recommendation. I think you can cut this 100 different ways, and one way or another, this body has to agree on it. So, but if sending it to the committee, we have a marketing committee. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a marketing committee that meets actually next week, if Mr. Crummer schedules it.
But I would say I would only bring in the vendors. I think the three that have been identified as the most viable proposals by our staff to interview them and identify, if there's a reason to deviate from staff recommendation. That's not unreasonable. I can support that. And if there are particular elements of the contract that we'd like to see, I would just list those for staff. I don't, know that we need to fly spec over and over again. Like, these are things we need to see in the contract.
Right.
We obviously need an escape clause from any contract we enter into for any reason, which has certainly bitten the city in ways before. So
I agree with you, Mr. DeBuck. I 100% agree with you. I'm just not sure that the last statement that you said in terms of getting out or however, I'm not sure that that's in the bid process that Mr. Kremer is referring to.
no, that would be in the contract that we sign.
Right, right. So that would have to be in there, because I think currently it's not in the bid document.
No, it would be in a contract that we sign. I
Right.
mean, any contract
And
that we
that's
enter
why
into with a vendor.
that's
staff
why
is
I
gonna
initially
clause
brought
for
it
us.
up
That should be boilerplate.
when we started the discussion as to whether
Yeah.
there was going to be a contract. Mr. Krawczewski.
Thank you. I'll offer a little assistance with the contract. So part of my role as city attorney, we develop some boilerplate contracts when we go to bid on contracts for the city that basically incorporates by reference the RFP and the RFP response as essential terms of the contract. And then we have the boilerplate provisions in the contract for term, early termination, termination for convenience, so the city, or in this case the DDA, could elect to terminate the contract if it wasn't panning out as expected. I agree, you should always have that escape clause with any vendor, no matter what the project is. So I have developed those, we have developed those, we are implementing them. So I would, even though technically we're a separate public body as a DDA, I would offer a boilerplate type of thing where you could use for any bidded project that has all the protections for the DDA in it and incorporates by reference the RFP and the responses as the guts of the agreement for purposes of what's being performed on behalf of the DDA, but still maintain in that boilerplate example all the protections that I've heard, because of course that's what I do on a daily basis for the city.
Right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I could, in the interest of time, because I know we do want
Sure.
to get to the budget item that's later, I'd actually like to withdraw the proposed DDA board resolution as printed in the package. And in place of it, I have a two-part resolution, which I'm happy to share with you, to speak before you. The first is to recommend an interview by a select committee of the top three contractors. And I'll just pause and say this is similar to a process we've used with other proposals that have come forward, also how we handled hiring and various things of that sort. Secondly, to work with the city attorney on drafting a contract for the board to review at a future date.
Okay, I think well said, and that satisfies what I was looking for. Yes.
That sounds reasonable. Not sure why we wouldn't just send it back to the Business Marketing Committee.
And just as a clarification, Mr. Chairman, with our meeting next Tuesday, I believe it is, and already several agenda items there, and to give enough lead time for the three top candidates, which I believe are going to be 1, 3, and 4 from the memo, that we'll need probably a week or two to schedule that, just to give them adequate time too.
That's
So-
fine. That's fine.
In practice, we have had more than one consumer meeting, so we could schedule something.
Yeah, we only have 4 members on that, so we're at the current time right now, so we can, Mr. Kramer can work with everybody and get a time that's suitable and.
Sure. Mr. Chair, if you'd like to specify by motion, members of the committee, you can. We can also, as a follow-up item.
I'm more than willing to let you handle that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so I'm suggesting that we go with Mr. Kramer's resolution.
Yeah, I'll move to adopt and approve the 2 resolutions as defined by the executive director.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Van Ness. Motion by Director Van Ness,
Support.
supported by Director Brown. Any questions, discussions? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our last item before reports, though, is budget discussion. How did you want to go about this, Mr. Kramer?
Well, we saved the best for last. I will lead off by saying I realize this is a complex document which probably takes many reads to fully absorb. To give you a little method to the madness of how it was put together, what I did was I looked at those items in the budget that are fixed, and primarily the transfers that we do to the auto parking fund, general fund, public safety, major streets, to come to an understanding of what is actually discretionary, like what we as a board can, really weigh in on and spend. And some of this documentation, as you'll see, is actually carried forward from some prior memos which were circulated around the 5th Street project for folks who followed that, if you recall. So the transfer to the general fund, the $737,000, which is our payment towards the Civic Center Complex project. The transfer to public safety, which covers the 2 officers that provide service at night and during weekends. And the transfer to the Major Streets Fund, of which we had none this fiscal year, but in prior years, it's widely varied from $25,000 to $575,000. So I'll pause there and see if anyone has any questions or comments on transfers and those fixed items before we get to the discretionary.
Mr. Johnson.
Couple things. I did want to point out that the public safety is actually discretionary. That is not that's not a contracted expense. That's something we put in place maybe 10 years ago, 12 years ago.
Yeah, I
and we've kept it in place. But more importantly, what I would kind of like to see with this, we have a goals list that was put together a long time ago by a much different body sitting up here. And I think, especially for the newer members of this board, I think it would make sense to have do something similar to that again, like a goals/budget meeting, special meeting where everybody can put their 2 cents in, because every year we're presented with those goals that were put together like 10 years ago. And there might only be 2 of us or maybe 3 of us on the board that were involved in putting those goals together. And I really think that we need to freshen those up with the fresh minds we have up on this board.
Okay. I agree with Director Dunstan. I mean, I had looked at it slightly different in terms of, I did believe that we should have some sort of full budget session, whether it be on a Saturday morning or whether it be a combination of the two committees together one night and make that a public meeting. So I'm in favor of that. I think it would be very effective moving forward. I think it would help some of the newer members, catch on to what we're doing. And I already told Mr. Kremer I appreciate very much his work on this, and the fact that it's still February and we're thinking about it. It gives us a good amount of time to work on this before our proposed 26-27 budget is due. And it'll give finance a chance to look at it in advance also, which they're going to review it either way. So I'm in favor of us making that arrangement, if everybody's agreeable to that. Mr. Walker.
I was just going to agree with Director Dunstan and you, Mr. Chairman, in terms of getting a budget workshop on the meeting schedule for whenever it can work for all of us. I think, Isaac, one thing that has been helpful is the memos, and specifically the part that I spent a lot of time with in the memos, the revenue impact. Right. That's really helpful to understand that picture from the project that we have before us. But a broader budget conversation will help us make, especially as a new DDA board member, make better informed decisions as we move forward. Because again, I'm constantly seeing language in terms of costs going up or maybe needing to move around different budget items. So a broader budget conversations to where we can all level set, identify some goals, I think would be helpful moving forward.
So, Mr. Chairman, just to reflect the discussion, if I could, that the recommendation is for the full board to meet for a budget session, potentially on a Saturday, as folks are available, so we can certainly poll the board. And I'd add probably within the next month, because as you mentioned, the city budget process is ongoing. So as a follow-up action, I'd be happy to schedule that.
The only reason why, Ms. Kremer, that I said a Saturday is because I've been involved with the DDA for a long time, and we used to do them on Saturdays.
Sure.
And that's the only reason why I messed it, was history. Like I said, if you wanted to take a Wednesday in the middle of the month and bring us all in at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon and keep us for 2 hours, I'm okay with that too.
Sure.
It's whatever the board wants to do.
Sure.
I'm adaptable, but I know people have busy schedules, so if one works better than the other, I'm amenable to either one.
Mr. Chair, so I'll, with your support, circulate some options for some dates and see what we can get consensus around.
That'd be fine with me.
Great, thank you. So I think that's actually a good segue as I get a little deeper into the document, starting on page 3. And this is where it all kind of came together for me. I realize it's a little bit of a challenge to kind of get through it. But, looking back since September, both the board and the committees have been working really hard to look at all of our expenditures and trying to get them right, balanced or rebalanced. So, and we've done things such as, the big item was eliminating Royal Oak Live, because we just realized that wasn't a reflection of what we were hoping or wanting to do. And likewise, we've changed other line items to increase them so that we can do other things like an expanded summer concert series. You'll actually see here a proposed business recruitment and retention fund, which as soon as next Monday, we hope to bring forward Monday and Tuesday to the committees. To review what I think is a really exciting draft, kind of pilot recruitment and retention project. And we have seen our stake in Placer increase. Just today, Mr. Chair, I was actually trying to negotiate with them to keep those increases from, piling up as they have, because what they're trying to charge us is almost double what we were paying 18 months ago, and that's not going to work. So, but on the other side, that we've also seen some pullback with different line items. So some of our spends with major media, that at a practical level, it was very hard to kind of feed that machine and get get them continuous content. But the related question was, were we getting the juice for our squeeze? The money we're putting out, were we getting it back? And my instinct after looking at all the data and working with the committee and the board was one area where we could really improve is strengthening our communication with Royal Oak residents. And we can see from the zip code data as an example that we've seen declining trends of visitation from Royal Oak residents. So naturally, the tool to get to them would be more of our local media as opposed to kind of the fire hose approach, trying to get everyone in the region or doing billboards or this or that. So there's some kind of trade-offs that are reflected here, where we've both cut in some areas, but we've expanded in others. Why don't I stop there and see if there's any feedback?
I was just going to, say, like, as you said, is there the juice to squeeze? Having a way, so I love the idea of coming together for a budget workshop, but I do think there needs also be a layer of identifying performance indicators so we can understand if where we're increasing in certain of discretionary funds, if we're getting the return on that, and be able to measure it and gauge it so then we can make adjustments for the following budget year as opposed to just wash, rinse, and repeat.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Chair, that would be a conversation I'd happily entertain with the director, yourself, and any others who would like to have that.
Yeah. I would just say, me personally, and I'm only speaking for myself here, I love the idea that we're focusing some of this effort on re-engaging with the actual residents of Royal Oak, and I think we should continue that. Mm-hmm. I think it's something that has lacked in the last few years, and we need to bring them back into the fold, and especially we need to bring them back downtown.
Right.
If they're not spending time down here, they need to be. So I think that that's a very important factor. And then our continuation with continuing to support the our small business community in our district. I think that's very important also. So, anybody else want to chime in at this point, Mr. DeBuck?
Yeah, just to the question at hand about the proposed marketing budget. I know we have discussed trying to target more locally, so I see the transition to more local outlets, but there's also just a reduction of overall marketing of 181,000. Is that, so are we reducing our overall marketing spend, or are we going to repurpose those dollars into other marketing efforts?
Correct. So, Mr. Chair, this is where I like to use the line, money is fungible. So every dollar that we can move from, frankly, some big corporate media buys to getting it into the pockets of people to spend downtown. And I'd use our gift cards as a recent example. The $50,000 of gift cards that were sold in 26 hours was remarkable. And looking at the redemption rate, like we're seeing a direct, immediate impact on the bottom line for businesses. So yes, I think it's a shift in strategy, frankly, and probably one that merits further discussion.
Okay, so those dollars would likely be repurposed to other tactics to get people downtown as opposed to paid marketing spend.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else want to chime in on this? I'm sure we'll get, when we schedule the meeting, we'll get into this a little bit deeper. And if you have the opportunity to look over our budget between now and the scheduled meeting, I think that would be helpful. Write down any questions that we want to find out. Mr. DeBuck, go ahead.
Sorry, you finished?
No, go ahead, please.
I just want to make sure, because Mr. Kremer put this on the agenda for purposes of conversation today. I just want to make sure we're achieving your goals for I think the conversation today, setting the stage for that more robust work session. So is it your intention just to kind of give this high-level overview of major changes, so those are top of mind for us, so we can go in with a good baseline understanding of where things stand? Is that your goal for today?
Mr. Chair, Director took the words out of my mouth.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. If there's nothing forward or nothing else on that, we'll move forward with reports.
Great.
Available downtown property report.
Wonderful. So with this, I'll just take the privilege of reintroducing to you Julia Caliagar, our Deputy Director, who continues to do astounding work on your behalf.
Excellent.
Yeah, so this won't be too long, but as was in the packet, we have about 54 vacancies currently. Over the past several weeks, I've been documenting all the available spaces using different resources that we have through the city. Our Economic Development Department has access to CoStar reports, so that's provided excellent information around vacancies. And in the document that I've created, you'll see things from the photos of the property, square footage, sale or lease price, and appropriate managers or brokers to contact if you're interested in the properties. This information's also been entered into our Salesforce CRM. So what we'd really like to do there is make sure that we're able to effectively track the property movement, ensure that we see what's happening. As we start to close the gap, we want to be able to identify what's working and build historical data in that system so it's more useful to us in the future. We'll continue to update this regularly and have this report available to highlight changes in activity for you all. And then really the goal with this is, consolidating this information into one clear and comprehensive space where interested parties are able to view it and it's easily accessible and digestible for them. So that's all. Do you have any questions?
I have one.
Yes.
Julie, is there a way to identify how long each of these spaces have been vacant? I know that's a big ask, but
that's a great question. I think that would be incredible information to have. Unfortunately, it's not available in public reports, so I couldn't go online and find that. I am starting to have a lot of conversations with property owners and property managers, and that's definitely something we can implement, into a checkbox or a section in Salesforce. So we're able to add that as we get that information organically, but unfortunately, there's nowhere that I could find that. I may be able to see how long the property has been listed on something like OneLoop or OneNet, so that's a potential option.
I mean, maybe the realtors themselves can help
Yeah,
with that.
absolutely.
Or local businesses, next door neighbors and whatnot possibly as well.
Yeah, for sure. That would be great. Great suggestion. Any other questions?
Julia, you touched on it, but I was wondering if you could expand a little bit. Are you getting access to the actual building owners at all?
A little bit. Some of the property management companies own the buildings, so those individuals have been more accessible because their information is publicly available. Not as much the individual business owners, but can definitely work on that. I know we have a few great folks that come regularly here, so can touch base with them as well as looking into some others.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Julie, I just want to say thank you for putting this together. Again, I've seen vacancies downtown that's eye-opening to quantify and see, again, the amount, what type, and again, where as well. So thank you for putting this together and looking forward to updates moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. CoStar is great, and it's a great tool that the Economic Development Department provides, but it's not as easily digestible. So if you send someone that, they might have a lot of questions or not understand everything that's in there. So we just wanted to make this available so it's easier for people that are interested to know what's going on and what options are here for them.
This is on our website?
It will be.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Kremer, your report?
All right, Mr. Chairman, so we reached the end of another meeting. Congratulations. Before I give my formal prepared report, I just would like to take a moment to address one of the issues that the public brought forward with respect to West Street and the Playscape project there. We are looking at all of our options, including pausing the current purchase order that's made, and I'm in active conversation with the contractor there, so we're not locked into anything. Having said that, the timing consideration is that you want to get your order in as soon as possible because you're getting stacked up against everyone else trying to build within a limited building season. So, Mr. Chairman, my follow-up and commitment to all of you and to the public is to add this to our infrastructure committee meeting agenda so we can have further discussion at that time on Monday.
Thank you, Ms. Kramer. I actually had that written in my notes here, and I was going to bring that up at the end of the meeting, but I think you pretty much addressed it right there. We definitely should have a small discussion about it.
Wonderful.
At the next meeting. So.
It's always encouraging that we're thinking and moving together as a team. So with that, happy to give my report of some of the highlights from the last month. As all of you are very well aware, Fifth Street Improvement Project is underway. Pre-construction meeting has been had successfully. There is some follow-up on the issues related to the string lights and also with the cost of the permanent lights. And we'll have some more details to report back to you. We have made an effort reaching out to Oakland County, also General Motors, through a grant program to see what additional funds we can leverage. We have a growing team, very excited to share around business retention and recruitment. We've actually had 2 meetings, and right now it is Julia, plus a very proactive resident who reached out, but they're working to add some additional people. We hope at least one board member will join as well. And it's just a group that's regularly getting together to identify what's keeping businesses from moving in here, but also trying to find the ones that would be a great fit for Royal Oak. We hosted Main Street America and Main Street Oakland County for accreditation, and on February 11th I was notified that we will be accredited again for year ending 2025. So that continues our streak from 2018. That's very good news. We also have some work cut out for us to keep that accreditation, but I'll be reporting more on that later. I have drafted a board guide, and I'll be including that on the agenda for each of the committees so that you can review it. And in it are some draft policies that we'll want to likewise review and bring forward to the board for consideration and to act on. Next up, annual reports submitted to the state. Also, done a detailed analysis of the gift card program back to 2020. That'll be in the marketing agenda next week, so look forward to that. Number 7, the playscape, as we've discussed. Number 8, the Hill Day with Main Street America in DC. I was really pleased to be one of 75 leaders nationally that brought our message of the more than 1,200 downtowns in the Main Street America network to our members of Congress. And I can tell you, to a member, both sides of the aisle, they were incredibly receptive of us. And, the one thing we're really asking for is a piece of legislation to expand a program of the Economic Development Authority, which would get dollars down to the local level to help with a lot of the things we're dealing with here. And fingers crossed, but I think we have a good chance for that House resolution and the accompanying Senate bill to get approved this year. So with that, number 9, our partnership with the Restaurant Association is thriving. As I referred to earlier, the $50,000 of gift cards were purchased, and our $50,000 of bonus, so $100,000 total, were sold out in 26 hours. And we've already seen the spend rate for those exceeding 10% as of Monday and getting even higher through today, and people have through March 15th to spend that $50,000 of bonus, after which it comes back to us. And last but not least, as I always like to close, we've logged 374 hours of volunteer time from our active 19 volunteers for a total of $13,020 of in-kind contribution, or to put it another way, each of you on average have contributed $1,001 worth of your time, and for that we thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer.
Welcome.
Does anybody have anything they want to bring before the board tonight? Mr. Yazbek.
I just wanted to thank you for mentioning that about the playscape. I think it's very important to listen, as you mentioned, Mr. Chairman. the Royal Oak residents and their thoughts and opinions on things. So thank you for doing that. And then I have been on the DDA for a long time, but I did not realize perhaps the most effective strategy of getting something before and getting the DDA behind it is to bring your granddaughter. I would have said yes to anything that she asked for. She's so cute running around there. And then I did want to clarify, you touched on it, Mr. Kramer, but this contract for Fifth Street, we didn't want, we talked about a situation where the contractor started ordering things and got in a position where, you know, we couldn't turn back. The festoon lights you mentioned, where you've communicated that we're putting a halt on that for the moment, along with the permanent lights. Is that accurate?
So, Mr. Chair, I can tell you there's been one pre-construction meeting, and they're regularly going to be held on a biweekly cadence starting March 11th. But even more to the point, that we have active ongoing daily communications with all of the members of the team, including the lead contractor and our representation with Fleece Vanderbrink and others. So yes, these items have been alerted to them, and we're actively looking at that whole electric piece, actually, because there's some questions about breaking it into 1 and 2 phases, and you know, some sensitivities with the different subs, which I won't fully get into right now. But yes, you know, we are looking at all of that, and just thinking about a project and how it flows. That, you know, we have a big focus right now on staging. There's going to be demolition. By the time we put those lights in, that's about the other end of the spectrum. So I'm confident we do have time, and that, you know, we've heard the concerns of the board, and throughout the course of the project in these biweekly meetings, that we'll land the plane. We'll get it right. So so the points are all noted, and, you know, we will continue to communicate back to the board, you know, how that's proceeding.
I mean, one more thing. I'm sorry, and maybe this happens organically, but as both a business owner on Fifth Street and as a member of the DDA, would it be appropriate for a couple of us to attend one of these pre-construction meetings so we just get a idea of what familiarity with what the plan is, and, you know, maybe it's more of a business as a business owner than a DDA, but I would personally like to be involved in the next meeting to hear directly what's going on.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I don't have a sense of precedence on that with board members attending project meetings.
Yeah, all I can say is this, is I know that there has been some discussion with some business owners in the area that feel they're stakeholders and obviously would like to have some input in some way, shape, or form. So how we go about that, I'm not 100% sure. But I think we're gonna have to come up with a system, I guess, is my best thought on that. Mr. Dubois.
Yeah, a couple things on that. I guess one, this has been in the works for at least 3 years now. Dozens and dozens of meetings, subcommittee meetings, planning meetings, charrettes, lots of conversation about the development of Fifth Street, and it's been no secret that this has been on the agenda for a while. There's been ample opportunity for public comment on multiple design ideas and vendors. It seems odd now that we've moved forward with a contractor to bring together a stakeholder committee to nitpick the design and the way forward.
Mr. Chair, if I could.
Yes.
I understand the spirit of Director Yesbick's comment about wanting to have good two-way communications with business owners, with stakeholders, and frankly with this board. Having said that, having been through exactly one of these meetings today, I can tell you the tone and tenor of the discussion, it's highly technical. It's about the color of concrete and the nature of finishes and the technical process by which decking is laid. I think that was a 10-minute conversation today. And one of the things I'm aware of and sensitive about is that, business owners have limited time, and it's valuable. And I actually think we can do better than inviting you to a construction meeting. But I think this is something I can take back to our colleagues with the engineering department to talk through with it, because they have a big role in the project too, and also that I can follow up and report back to the board. My instinct, Mr. Chair, is potentially before or after one of these biweekly meetings that we could do a special kind of focused discussion with the lead contractor and selected businesses, just to facilitate that good communication. Questions can be answered, et cetera. And the other point that I make is this, with construction starting on March 16th, that we need to have a very active ground game and regular ongoing communication with businesses throughout the course of the project. And that's something I'm going to be very focused on, working together, myself, with Julia, with others, to make sure that we have continuous communication with the businesses throughout the course of the project.
Yeah, I think Mr. Kramer kind of captured what I'm trying to say. I don't want to redesign the project. I would like an awareness of what's happening with the project.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of personal
Yeah.
to some of the businesses that might have businesses directly adjacent to the Fifth Street construction. So it might be more of a business owner than a DDA person, but just it's an awareness. And I appreciate, Mr. Kramer, your suggestion that I think that would be wonderful if we could do that.
Absolutely. If we're talking about business disruption and businesses understanding
Right.
the order of operations, what's going to happen when, and having plenty of prep time to understand how it's going to impact their operation, that absolutely has to be a top priority.
Yeah.
But I don't think the construction planning meetings are the place for that.
I would ask Mr. Ochowski here, I don't want to put him on a spot here, but isn't that typically that responsibility of notification and everything, isn't that typically in the contract with the contractor?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
I can affirm, Mr. Chair, we went through those details fairly extensively today, so active and ongoing communication will be part of the project.
Because I actually had a meeting the other day with Keller Williams, and they didn't seem to be aware of what was happening.
Yeah, awareness is
And that troubled me a little bit, because they are
Right there.
right there.
All right, Mr. Chair, we'll make a point of following up on that. And likewise, as directors hear things, that you are the eyes and ears. So to the extent you can get that to me in real time, that we will make a point of reaching out and making sure all questions are answered.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I just have
Yes,
one quick
go
thing.
ahead.
Separate conversation again. I want to thank the speakers that we had come before us tonight to express, concerns about a number of things that we have going on. Isaac, I just wanted to see maybe at our next meeting if we can just get an update in regards to how the continued rollout of the parking system is going. I think that would be helpful, especially going into our warmer months when we'll have more foot traffic in the downtown space. What really triggered it for me is, I believe, someone mentioned the old system and how someone tried to still use that old system. I experienced that this weekend when my wife and I went out to Ronan, and she tried to use the old system again. We're downtown residents. Me being on the DDA and with the smart device, of course, knowing how to use the updated, that was just our experience. I don't know if that's happening more often or not, but would appreciate an update into how the rollout of that system is coming.
Yeah, so Mr. Chair, we're happy to follow up on that. I do want, just for informational purposes, to make the board aware, and certainly City Attorney's interim manager can back me up on this, that there is a time period by which the old system needs to be removed, which I believe is March. Yeah, middle of March seems to ring a bell. So it may be that they're getting around to removing the older equipment, but they are required to have it out by a certain point. But having said that, Mr. Chair, we're happy to bring forward an update on the parking system for our future meeting.
Just to add a comment, I've seen several days I've seen companies out removing the old little parking stanchions, and I'm sure there's a lot, and it's time consuming, and it seems to be like block by block they're getting done. But it is, I'm out there at Sidetrack all the time helping people park. It's just, maybe it wasn't the best conversion, but I know they are working on it.
Yep. Yeah, I saw him out there today, actually, so. Anything else before the board? Seeing none, what's the wish? Director Yazbek. I have a motion by Director Yazbek.
Second.
Second by Director Lagasso. Any further discussion?
Can we vote on Director Dunson's motion one more time?
The one you want to vote yes to, but you really meant to vote no to?
I'll be absent in March.
Okay, so, motion's on the table. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes, and we are adjourned.